Hi, thank you so much for joining me today. And today is day one of 30 days of sketches from Christie. And in fact, it's 31 days of sketches this time. This is round 10. So you will have seen that sketch going up at the beginning there. It was a sketch by Jessica Michaels with two large stars. So I drew myself a star template, and you can see me just drawing around this with a pencil, and I'm actually going to go over the stars with my watercolour paints to create an outline like they had on the sketch. So just drawing around and you'll see me doing that. And when I've done that first star, I'm just going to trim down the edges of that template to do the second star in the bottom left hand corner. I'm going with yellow and black for my colours for these stars, and I'm going to be pairing them with the new print shop from Vicki Boutin. So I just wanted to use those as my accent colours. They go nicely with the colours in the photo. These photos are of my daughter when we went to see Hamilton in London back in 2020. It was February 2020, just as the pandemic was really starting to take hold here in the UK. I remember being nervous about using the tube because we'd heard all sorts of things about how it was really becoming very prevalent in London, and to avoid the tube and not touch anything metal. We didn't really know too much about it at all at that point. So it was interesting times for sure. But I said to my husband, it's funny how we were worried about using the tube, yet we travelled down from Warrington by train, and we sat in a busy theatre for 2 hours, so go figure. Anyway, I did these stars, and then I decided, in fact, I wanted to be able to pop them up. So I painted them on that paper and then cut them all out. So I cut them out here. You'll see I'm just positioning them, and in fact I go one step further and actually cut around the edges of the lines. But first of all, I'm going to start building my photo mat here. So I'm just using the papier pieces from the print shop range. They're absolutely gorgeous, over 200 pieces in the box, and there are so many things in there. I just love it. So I'm finding little bits that I can add to this photo mat. That documented piece, I won't waste the fold over bit. I shall cut that in half and then use it on another layout for a date or something. So you can see me doing that here. And I love that true story banner. And these are really thin tissue paper. They're absolutely glorious. So just slowly building this photo mat up, deciding to just stick my photo straight down onto that yellow paper. I will pop the whole mat up onto some foam pads, but because the stars are going to be popped up, I wanted everything behind the photos to be at the same level as the photos, if that makes sense. So just checking that I'm happy with the placement there before I carry on. And now I'm going to carry on with my layering and matting, and I'm pulling some papers out of the 6x8 paper pad. I love this star paper, so I knew that that had to feature. So I'm just going to trim that down and use that as a mat, and just using my big scissors here. I couldn't be bothered getting the trimmer out. And then the reverse is a gorgeous blue grid. So I use some of that towards the bottom as well, again just cutting a strip off. And I really like this way of matting and layering, just adding pieces. Once you've got the photos on the first layer, it's really lovely to keep adding bits behind. And the sketch didn't have too much on this mat, so I didn't want to add too much, but I didn't want it to be too plain either, because obviously this is the main part of the layout. So I shall just keep building here. And now I've got that map done, I'm going to come in with my Tim Holtz oxide and do some inking in the background, some mixed media. Sorry, I couldn't think what the word was then. So just squidging some of the ink pad down onto the scrap there. I think that was a 6x12 sticker sheet that I just kept the piece from when I finished the stickers, and then just creating a mat of mixed media that will go underneath the photo and then move down towards the left hand side of the page as well. And just watering that down, making use of all of the ink that I've got there on that side piece. And then I shall do a bit of, as Vicki calls it, the kissing technique with this packaging technique, just to get all of that ink down. And it is beautiful when it's down. It's the marigold ink, I really like that. So just making sure that it's all smushed around the page and leaving it to dry, and you can see how the colours bloom out of that. It's gorgeous. So this is just a star stencil that I've got, and I thought I'd grabbed my Tim Holtz texture paste, and when I started to take it out of the pot I thought it felt a bit different, and it was only as I started to smush it down through the stencil I realised that it's my gesso. So it does more or less have the same effect, it just takes so much longer to dry, so I had to leave this for ages, and it was still a little bit wet when I ended up carrying on with the layout, because I didn't want to leave it overnight. I really wanted to get it done. So you can see it's just seeped a little bit underneath the stencil there, but I shall use my paintbrush just to even it out, and you don't see it. It stays white where the stars are, but this bit will just disappear into the background where I smooth it out. So this white gesso does have a slightly more glossy appearance than the texture paste would have done, but that's fine. Most of it in fact does get covered as per usual, so it's just to add a little bit more texture onto the layout really, and to try something new. So just cleaning up where I can with that damp brush, and then here we go. So as I said before, I decided to cut the outlines out. I've left a slight white border on it, partly to make it easier to mount really, because I'm going to mount it onto my phone tape, and partly just to add a little bit more dimension. So just trimming both of these down, and then I shall start adding the phone tape and adding it to the layout. So you can see that's still wet, that gesso there, but I'm starting with the yellow one first of all. So I won't bore you watching me doing all of this, and it takes a little while to get it in the right position. But once it's there, I go in with my, it's just the foam tape that we sell on a roll at Hey Look a Magpie, and put it around all the edges. There you can see there, and then stick it down. And just going in cautiously with this black one, because obviously that gesso is still a little bit wet, but I do the bits that don't touch the gesso and then just finish it off because it's dry enough, as I say. And a lot of it gets covered with the photo, so I'm not too worried. Sometimes it's just the process and just trying new things for me when I'm doing layouts. I don't mind if it gets covered, and I don't mind if it gets a bit smushed. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's only for my album. So here we go, just about to put it down, and thought I'll check to see how dry it was, and it was still really rather wet, so had to wait a bit more. I certainly won't be using gesso instead of texture paste again. Anyway, it's dry enough now, so that star is going down, and then I shall bring the photo back in. I just found this tag to the left of the page here, which I'm going to add to the back. Just while I was waiting for everything to dry, I was having a look through the papery pieces, because there are so many pieces, you see new things every time you go through them. And then I'm going to map the whole thing onto foam pads, the usual 6 to 25mm foam pads that I use on every layout. They're just fabulous, really easy to use, very quick, on a massive roll, don't seem to ever run out, and perfect for the job. So just making sure that I've got enough on there, and then I shall stick that down. And as you can see, a lot of that star texture has now been covered up by the photos, but that's fine. And on the right hand side there, underneath my scissors, you can see I also fussy cut some smaller stars which featured in the sketch. Again, I just hand drew them and then drew round onto some scrap pieces of paper from that paper pad. The navy blue one is a paper that I used on a previous layout using Print Shop, and again that grid that I used on the bottom of the photo mat. I don't really like having scraps hanging around too much, so if I can use them up quickly before cutting into a new piece, then I will always do that. So just putting this ticket, I found this washi ticket in the papery pieces, so just adding that there, and that's a great grounding piece to add some of the word stickers on afterwards. So just positioning these stars, working out where I want to put them. There were 3 stars at the top and 3 stars at the bottom, so I'm using these 2, and then I'm going to bring in some black Jenny Bolin star stickers from very old stash, just to add the 3rd star, and also bring in that black that I've got on that bottom star there that I cut out and painted. So again, mounting these up onto foam pads because they're overlapping that yellow star. They needed to be raised, but the other 2 are just stuck down flat. And then mimicking that there at the bottom again, half the star on the photo, because that was how it best fitted there. So then coming in with some red linen twine just to thread through that tag, and I just tie a knot at the top to keep that in place. And it's just bringing that red in because there's red on the theatre behind Amelia, and there's the little red on the tag there as well. So now I'm going to go through the sticker book, and straight away I found a lovely phrase that just says it was a memorable day, and it really was. We got absolutely soaked walking down to the theatre, but it was great fun. We walked down the Mile past Buckingham Palace, and even though it was raining, it was just nice to all be together. And then the boys went off to Abbey Road while we were at the theatre, and had a few drinks at the pub. Well, my husband did. My son was only 13 at the time, so he certainly didn't. And just going through these phrase stickers, there was the one at the top says we had fun, then oh yeah underneath it, and then just you and me at the bottom, and I shall find something to put in between those. And just going through to see what else I can see on here. nothing jumps out. And then I remember there was another tab at the top on the sketch, and I thought I needed one anyway for my date, so I pulled out one of these from the sticker book. I do love the Vicki Boutin sticker books. They have everything that I would want to use on a layout, so they're really great fun. So just mounting that up onto foam, because obviously it's overlapping the top and the photos are matted onto foam, so the bit that hangs over needs to be mounted up. So there we go, like I say, I found something for that tag, and again it's just bringing those black stars in. So now I want to add a little bird's nest of this red thread, just to bring the red down to the bottom right hand corner. So just scrunching it all up, and then I shall go in with some Nouveau Deluxe adhesive just to glue that down underneath that corner, just like that. And it's coming together really nicely now. So next I came back with this stencil and started to draw around some of the stars just to give a black outline. When I'd done a few, I wasn't entirely happy with it. I felt they looked too stark. So I'll go in with my dried marigold ink once again and stencil some in, and then I shall wet some of that dried marigold ink down and paint in, colour in the stars that I hadn't done in the first place. So just going around and doing all that. So while I'm doing that, I wanted to remind you to go and have a look in the description box down below. There'll be a little bit of information about my layout today, and also a link to the playlist. Christie's doing a playlist this year and it's worked fabulously for Scraptember. You just click on that link and everybody who's created a video will upload their video into that playlist every day. So it just keeps playing for you. Once you started watching, you can just go back to it at any time and you'll see everybody who's joining in, and they're wonderful. You get to see some new creatives, and you can just skip through any that you're not so bothered about, but you may find some more channels that you want to subscribe to. Do give everybody encouragement by liking their videos and giving them a comment if you've got time. It really does help so much. I know I love getting likes and comments from people, and if anybody wants to subscribe to my channel, I'd be over the moon. It's always nice to see those numbers ticking up. I don't do it for the numbers, but it just encourages you when you see that people are liking what you're doing. So that's that. Anyway, back to this. So you can see I just stenciled through, and then once I'd stenciled through, I decided I wanted to add the black lines to those stenciled stars, and that's what gave me the idea to go in with some wet ink and just paint in the ones that I hadn't stenciled. I seem to be using that word an awful lot, so I'll just leave you to watch that now. And now those stars have all been painted, I'm just going in with some tiny splatters all around, just to again add a bit more texture and dimension to the layout, just using my hand to shield my photos, not particularly well, but they're such tiny splatters it doesn't really matter. So using my scissors to try and get those splatters down. It's such a thin brush, it was a struggle, but I was too lazy to reach for another brush and then have to clean that too. So just keeping going with those splatters. And now that's done, after a quick clear up, because I know I'll end up dipping the layout in the ink if I don't clear it up, I'm going to go in with the title. So if you watched any of my previous videos, you will have seen these Amy Tangerine Vickers before. I love them, and I'm just simply spelling out the word Hamilton because that's where we were. So just moving those down straight underneath the photo, and then I'm going to go in with my journaling. And the journaling is it's the first layout I've done about the pandemic. I haven't done any layouts at all in 2020. I think I've been putting it off because I didn't really know how much I wanted to go into. But this day was quite a significant one for us because it was the last big trip that we did before lockdown, and we were just really starting to become aware of exactly what was happening. So in my journaling I put, we got absolutely soaked walking to Victoria Palace Theatre for the matinee performance. We'd heard about this new virus COVID which was starting to really spread through London, and were nervous to use the tube unless we had to. So it's just documenting our feelings really. So you'll have seen me there adding the date at the top, which is incorrect because I did 2022 instead of 2020 with my date stamp. And now I'm going in with some black paint splatters just to finish that off. And then you'll see in the close-ups and the final still at the end that I have changed that date just with a pen. I just coloured in the 2 into a 0 and then coloured the other zeros in so that it matched. Thank you so much for joining me, and I shall see you again tomorrow for the next sketch. See you then. Bye.